The main character thinks he's funny. Hey there, today we're going to be tier ranking the 85 books that I read in 2025. I know it's been a minute. I haven't posted a long form video for a very long time. I recently posted the books that I plan to read in February, so that is up. So I thought we would just dive in and I can catch you up on everything that I read in 2025. This is my first tier ranking video. I'm going to try to figure it out. I'm also still fighting off a cold, so I'll be drinking lots of tea in between. So with that, let's get right into it. This is future Alicia. I already messed up. I accidentally deleted the part where I go over the different tiers and also me talking about the first 3 books. We're just going to re-record this. So starting off with the first tier. The first tier is a huevo. That just means it was excellent. It was just an excellent book. I loved it, an all-time favorite, and it changed me somehow, either emotionally or it challenged me somehow, emotionally, intellectually, or I just had a really, really good time reading it. Orale. So that is good. It's like, wow, good book. I really enjoyed it, but it's just not an all-time favorite. Or maybe it didn't connect with me in an emotional way. Like, it was a well-written book, excellent writing, but it didn't connect with me. Now we have chido. That just means like it was cool. It was a cool book. It was good. It was solid. I really enjoyed reading it. Now we have ni modo. This is like you're disappointed. You thought that you were really going to enjoy this book, but it turns out that it's not for you. Ni modo. Then we have guacala. That is the last tier. That just means this book is not for me. It's either I didn't enjoy it and it's not for me, or it was not good and I would not recommend it. So I began the video by trying to tier rank as many of the nonfiction books that I read, and then I move on to the rest. The first one under the orales section is Everyone Who Is Gone Is Here by Jonathan Blitzer. This is a really good book to read in combination, I think, with other books about immigration. This one is one where the author talks about immigration history and how we ended up where we are in our current state, right? It takes like a policy approach, but it also provides stories about individual people. I thought it was a really good combination and I really liked it. Next, we have Mutual Aid. This was a book that I picked up on a whim last year. Not on a whim, actually. I really wanted to understand how I can be a better community member. So in Mutual Aid, the author really talks about the difference between mutual aid versus, let's say, charities who already cater to very specific demographics and who maybe could be left out of those. I really wanted to understand how to be a better community member. And this is where I started. I thought it was good. It was cool. It's a good introduction for me, but I think there's probably more intersectional books out there than I can pick up. Then I have No More Tears, The Dark Secrets of Johnson & Johnson. There's going to be a trend with some of the nonfiction books that I pick up. A lot of them are like investigative journalism. In this one just made me realize that I don't ever really want to consume or use Johnson & Johnson products. The author talks about Johnson & Johnson products. First of all, they make more than just baby powder. They are in so many different industries, and there's just a lot of neglect that happens within their company at the research and marketing level, and they market some products that they know will not help and can actually cause harm. So yeah, in terms of reading enjoyment, the only reason I put it in chido, because this honestly deserves to be an a huevo or orale because of the content. However, the way that it's written is very dry. It's one of those nonfiction books that people think about when they read nonfiction, the dry ones, the ones that you kind of like dread coming back to. It's not salacious. It's not something that you're like, yes, I have to keep reading, but it is blood curdling. By the way, Everyone Who Is Gone Is Here was really good to read. It was very digestible, it kept me interested, and I read it as a mix of audiobook and physical book. Next, we have Autocracy Inc., The Dictators Who Want to Rule the World by Anne Applebaum. This was, I'm gonna put it in ni modo. This was one that I thought I would really enjoy. She talks about how basically the world is run as an autocracy with very prominent and wealthy players kind of manipulating everything in the background, but it doesn't address capitalism as an issue. Unfortunately, it wasn't as researched as I would have liked it to be. The next nonfiction we have is Plunder, Private Equity's Plans to Pillage America. I'm gonna put it in chido, and it's my favorite one so far between these 3. So if you wonder why Red Lobster going out of business, if you wonder why Toys R Us went out of business, a lot of your like favorite chains going out of business, this book will explain the role in private equity basically making companies go under in order for them to continue to make more money. It's wild, the stuff that I read and learned in this book. Another nonfiction that I read is Against Techno-Ableism by Ashley Shue. I'm going to put this in Orale. I really enjoyed this book. It gave me a new perspective. The author talks a lot about how when technology is created for people with disabilities, it's not really in conversation with the people who will benefit from it, and rather technology is used as a way to fix things when fixing isn't really needed. The next book that I read is How Fascism Works, The Politics of Us and Them by Jason Stanley. I think it's well researched. It's a great starting point for someone who wants to understand what fascism is and how it works and how it's put in place. I learned a lot from this one. Let's see. We have The Volunteer by Gina Tobani. Ooh. Yeah, I'm gonna put this also in Orale. I'm going to put it at the top of the list. Gianna Tobani is a journalist. She gives you a look at the history of the death penalty in the United States and the different ways that it can be enacted and why certain methods are banned in certain states versus not, and which one is the more humane approach essentially. And she does this while also telling the story of an inmate who actually volunteered for the death penalty ahead of time and all the roadblocks that he faced trying to have a humane death and just all the trials and tribulations he had to go through. This was a very illuminating read, not just on the death penalty and its history, but also on the prison industrial system in the United States. One thing that stood out about this particular book is that at some point certain medications were banned by pharmaceutical companies for death penalties, and because they didn't want bad coverage, they were banned from being used. And so prisons were smuggling these medications from abroad in order to be able to use them. Highly recommend. So this one is Legacy, A Black Physician Reckons with Racism in Medicine by Uche Blackstock, MD. I'm also going to say Orale. This is a memoir by Uche Blackstock, and she talks about growing up in an affluent Black family. Both of her parents were doctors, and so she remembers like growing up with a lot of advantages that didn't always necessarily prepare her for her time going to a top university and then becoming a doctor. So she gives us that lens growing up and why she chose medicine, but also she talks about the experiences that she had and the way she advocates for patients. I found it very illuminating. Next, I have Racial Innocence, Unmasking Latino Anti-Black Bias and the Struggle for Equality by Tanya Kateri Hernandez. I think this is a really important read for a lot of Latinos and Hispanics in the United States. She's essentially talking about Latinos and their anti-Black bias and how we often as a community say that we can't be racist or we can't be colorist because we ourselves are people of color who experience racism and discrimination. She dismantles this. She makes a really good argument for how we can discriminate even when we are discriminated against by other groups. Just because of how academic it was, I'm going to put it in Chido because it was not the easiest thing to read both emotionally and intellectually, but it is a very important read. This I'm going to put, As you can see, 2025 was a year where I really wanted to learn more about pharmaceutical companies. This one is another one that is very easy to read, very digestible, but also very riveting. And it's also one that makes your blood boil. In particular, we follow Lisa. So Lisa Prada used to be a sales representative for a pharmaceutical company whose name I already forgot. She sold a medication that was targeted for people with multiple sclerosis. And in order for the medication to be efficaciable, you had to follow a very strict plan that is set by the doctor. And so why the title is called False Claims is because this company wanted their sales rep to sell more of this medication. And so they encourage sales representatives to lie and prescribe the medication a lot more frequently than it was supposed to be taken. So Lisa Prada is a whistleblower, and then she wrote this book to talk about her experience working for this company. Ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. It's an excellent book though. Next we have The Intelligence Explosion, When AI Beats Humans at Everything. I'm going to put this in Chido. This is by James Barat. I mean, what can I say? AI has recently exploded, or generative AI has recently exploded, and it feels like everyone is pushing AI onto us. Companies, ads, everything. So I wanted to understand more about maybe the consequences of generative AI and take like a deeper look into maybe some stuff that is not being talked about. I will say this book takes a very bleak approach. It's basically like, well, AI is superior than us. It learns faster faster than us, it's better than us, and it's going to outcompete us at some point, and we don't know if it's friendly or not, so we need to prepare essentially. And I think it's important to hear these conversations and to sort of understand where we are with AI. And I also think, you know, he didn't have to be so bleak, so go in with a grain of salt if you are going to pick up this one. I'm going to put this one at the top of Chido. This is School Punishment and the Legacy of Racial Injustice. This is another very academic read. This one also took me months to read because there is a lot of research that went into it. The author approaches this like a grad paper, so there's a thesis and then he has his supporting argument, but the author essentially argues that suspensions in schools are a form of racial injustice that is happening within elementary schools because the kids who get punished are being punished discriminately and they lose a lot of support when they are suspended instead of given the resources that they need to succeed. Really important to read, especially if you live in the United States, and it's really academic, so know that going in. Wow, I read a lot of nonfiction in 2025. Next, we have The Rent Collectors. I'm going to put this Exploitation, Murder, and Redemption in Immigrant LA by Jesse Cat. This was a wild ride. This memoir slash nonfiction book moves forward in time, talking about one particular crime. There was a street vendor in Los Angeles who was murdered by a gang member, and so it kind of talks about the ramifications of that, but everything leading up to that event, including following the lives of the street vendor and his family and how he ended up living in LA, and also this gang member who murdered our street vendor and how he came to be part of the gang. And he also gives us background into this entire community living in this very particular enclave of Los Angeles and how it was a very prosperous community, but a lot of failed policy by the city of Los Angeles led not only to this event but to the disenfranchisement of a lot of people within that area. The other nonfiction book that I see here is Soldiers and Kings. I think I'm gonna put this one in A Huevo. Yeah, that feels right to me. I sobbed by the end of this book. Soldiers and Kings, Survival and Hope in a World of Human Smuggling by Jason De Leon. Over the last couple of years, I've been reading a lot of books that are about immigration or memoirs that are about immigration, especially in the United States. And this one is one that was very unique because it focuses on the stories of coyotes, is what a lot of people in Spanish call them, or the smugglers, people who bring immigrants into the United States and how they end up being coyotes or smugglers, and the vast system that has exploded and is entrenched in up and down basically Latin America and North America. It was very enlightening. I didn't understand the stories of smugglers or coyotes, but what I really liked it as well is that the Jason De Leon is an anthropologist, I believe, and so he actually went and spent time with them, learning their stories, living with them, and also doing research to understand the politics of how everything works. This was excellent, highly recommend. Solito, I would also put in A Huevo. It's an excellent memoir about this young Salvadorian boy who is traveling by himself to the US. This is White Lies, How the South Lost the Civil War and Rewrote the History. You know, I'm gonna say this one is Ni Modo. I really wanted to like this one. I didn't find myself wanting to come back to read it. I feel like there's probably books out there that do it better, and I'm gonna find it because it's an important topic. We have another nonfiction. This is called Fifth Son, A New History of the Aztecs by Camila Townsend. I'm going to put this in Orale. This is a history of pre-Columbian Americas Beyond the Gender Binary by Aleke. I would put this in Orale. I think this is an important read. This is part of something called the Pocket Change Collection, which are supposed to be like books about a particular topic that you can read in like maybe 2 to 4 hours. It gave me a new perspective in thinking about the gender binary and how we approach it as a society. I would recommend this one. It's short and sweet. So I guess we can just kind of go in order for now. We have Cibola Burns by James S. A. Corey. This is book 4 to the Expand series, which I'm currently reading through. I'm going to put this in Chido. Liked it. I'm excited to continue on with the series. I'm currently reading Nemesis Games. The Empress by Shen. This is a 2026 release. It came out in January and it's magnificent. Really, really interesting. There's a lot of politics and it's not the story that I was expecting. Let's keep going on this fantasy train. We have The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. I'm going to put this on the lower end of chill. This is my first Abercrombie. It's very crass. I was not expecting that. I think the characters really grow on you. I know Joe Abercrombie is known for his character work, and I will say by the end of the book, the characters really grow on me. So I will continue with the series. Watermoon. This was all vibes, no plot. It felt like the author had this idea of really fun, whimsical things that she wanted the story to be about, and then she plugged in these whimsical parts and tried to make a story out of it. It just wasn't for me. We have Mañana. I'm gonna put it here. This was a collection of Latinx comics. It was like a bind up of comics. I enjoyed it. I'm not much of a comic book reader or a graphic novel reader, and they were short and sweet. There were different illustrators and different stories. I liked it, and it made me want to pick up more. And it's all by Latino authors, in case you wanted to pick up graphic novels or comics by Latino authors. Let's see. We have The Membranes. This is by Chi Tai Wei. This is an old science fiction book. Not old, but it was released during the 90s, I believed, or translated during the 90s. One of those two. I'm gonna put it at the top of Orale. It's one that I almost DNF'd because the concept is so strange and it wasn't really pulling me in, but I decided to stick it out, and by the end I was mind blown. It's a book that is ahead of its time. Ooh, people are gonna come for me for this one. You know, at least it's not in Wakala. I understand why people like it. You're learning as you go with the character, like what's happening, what's unraveling. There's high stakes. The main character thinks he's funny. I mean, the one saving grace of why it's not at the bottom for me is the friendship that developed. My main complaint is that he's like a teacher, right? He's a high school teacher, science teacher. And because he's a teacher, he's like, I know this because I'm a teacher and therefore I know everything. And so this is what I'm gonna do now. And I don't know, every single character besides the main character was completely flat. Kind of lean into some stereotypes for some of the other characters. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. Buffalo Dreamer. This is a middle grade. It's a book by an indigenous author. To be honest, I read it very early in 2025 and I can't remember what it was about, but I remember enjoying it. So I'm going to put it here. Next we have Ibis, and that's going to go right at the top. A Huevo. It's so good. This is by Justin Haynes. I believe this was his debut novel and it's incredible. The way that he tells the story, it's layered, it's multi-POV, it goes back in time. It reminds me of something akin to the books by Hong King. So next we have The Queen's Spade. This is young adult, I believe. It's like a historical thriller revenge story. I'm going to put it here, and it talks about Queen Victoria's granddaughter who was of African descent. She was an actual person. This is based on true events, and it is a revenge story. Next we have All the Water in the World. This could be in between both of these. I'm going to say Ni Modo. This is All the Water in the World by Aaron Kafal. This is a speculative fiction, like near dystopian novel about Earth going through climate crisis, where basically Earth has been covered with water all over. I mean, it was okay. Like, lean into the culty side of things. I don't like books about cults, especially not the way that it was done here. Unfortunate, I didn't like it. I like climate fiction, but this one wasn't for me. Zeal was a great one. This is by Morgan Jerkins. It's historical fiction. It's a multi-generational family saga. It's about souls, the souls of two people who are meant to be together, but for whatever reason they cannot be, and so through their generations they keep being pulled back to each other. And that's all I'm gonna say. Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor. I'm gonna have to go with Orale right at the very top. This was incredible. It's very different from all of the books that I've read by her. This is literary sci-fi, and we follow a disabled author who is making her last hurrah to publish a book. She wants to become an author, and her family doesn't support her, and so far everything that she's written basically people don't like, and so she's like, whatever, I'm just gonna make one more attempt. I'm gonna write this silly book about robots, and this propels her into stardom. She becomes a best-selling author, and so this is told in dual POVs. We follow this author as she achieved fame and she's trying to navigate all of these new things. And we also get to read her story that she wrote about these robots side by side. It's about authorship, who gets to tell a story, who becomes famous, or whose stories, become popular. It's also about disability. It's about so many different things. I really love this book. Actually, you know what? Why not? I'm just gonna put it up. It's my tier ranking list. If I loved it, I love it. Next we have This Is the Only Kingdom. Actually, I'm gonna put it down here in Chilo, very top of the Chilo list. This is a book by a Puerto Rican author. I believe Jackie Diaz is Puerto Rican. Another multi-generational saga. It's about this very particular community within Puerto Rico that is disenfranchised, that is very heavily policed, and people basically trying to crawl and scrape their way out of this community and live a better life. It's told in Puerto Rico and in Miami, and it's very moving. It's really well told, but it's also a very brutal story. Okay, Canto Contigo. I'm gonna put it at the bottom of Orale. Canto Contigo is a young adult contemporary novel. Finlay Donovan digs her own grave. I've been reading the Finlay Donovan series since it came out. It's just, it's cozy at this point for me. This is what I consider cozy. Certain books that people consider cozy, I do not. This is like cozy for me, like a mystery book. They're kind of extravagant and out there. They don't always make sense, but they make me chuckle and giggle. I keep reading them. The Other Lives of Altagracia, I'm going to put very high up on Orale. I believe this is her debut. This is a novella. I believe it's her debut. We're following Altagracia, who has OCD. She also has hallucinations, and so we follow her as she's living her life, but it's told in the way that Altagracia lives it. So it's very scattered. It's hallucinatory. It's really well done. This Cursed House was not for me. This is by Del Sanders. I had to take a break because my throat was really hurting yesterday, but it's a brand new day. We're going to continue where we left off, and this time I think it has to be rapid fire because this video is already going to be really long. So Dwelling by Emily Hunt. Dwelling, I'm going to put in, you know what? I think I'm going to put in Nimodo. I think ultimately I wanted to like it and I did enjoy parts of it, but it ended up being not for me. Reservoir Witches, I'm going to put in Orale. This is a collection of short stories about Mexican women, a variety of Mexican women. It's raw and gritty and it doesn't shy away from problems plaguing real women in Mexico, and it's told from a variety of different perspectives. I really liked it. She's coming out with a new book this year, I think, and I really want to read it. Waiting for the Long Moon by Amanda Peters is another short story collection. I'm going to put this at the top of Chido here. Amanda Peters is a Canadian Indigenous author. She wrote a novel that I really enjoyed and I'm blanking on the name of it. This is a collection of short stories that deal with Indigenous life and ways of life. I really enjoyed it. I like her writing. I think Canto Contigo I'm going to move down. I thought it was good. We Do Not Part by Hong Kong. This is going to go all the way up here to A Huevo. This is a book that talks about the Jeju massacre that happened. So it's about a woman who has to travel to Jeju during a snowstorm to save the bird of her friend who is hospitalized in Seoul, and she won't be able to make it back in time. So she travels to Jeju to save this pet bird. But through it, we also learn about this previous history. It's about generational trauma, about hidden atrocities. There's a lot of recurring motifs. I think this would be a great book to read in high school or as part of a college curriculum and really analyze, or as part of a book club. Fantastically written. It's hallucinogenic at times, very atmospheric, perfect read for winter in my opinion. Malinali, I hate that it just didn't work for me. I'm gonna put it here. I really wanted to love this one. This is the story of La Malinche, which is the indigenous translator who helped Cortez. I think for me the problem was that it didn't really blend the historical and the magic really well. I either wanted it to be a full fantasy or I wanted it to be a historical fiction, and it towed the line, and I don't think it did it well. This is a no for me. So in 2025, I ended up reading the Desert Trilogy. Is that what it's called? Here's the other one. Here we go. So it starts off with The Lies of the Ajungo, which I think The Lies of the Ajungo for me is A Huevo, and then The Memory of the Ogisi and The Truth of the Aleke are in Orale for me. The Forever Desert series, that's what it's called. It's a collection of 3 novellas, so they're each about 100 pages each. Each of these read sort of like a fable. They're short and bite-sized, but they pack a punch. The Accidentals by Guadalupe Nettel. You know, now that I'm looking back at this, I'm sorry, I think How Fascism Works needs to go down here as well. This is also a collection of short stories. Guadalupe Nettel is a Mexican author. If I'm being completely honest, I don't remember what the short stories were about. This is one that I might have to reread. When I did read it, I did enjoy the short stories, so maybe that's an argument for putting it down here. The Resting Place by Camilla Sten. I'm also going to put this in Chido. I really enjoy Camilla Sten's writing. So this is a translated fiction novel. I believe she might be Swedish. This is a thriller horror book. I really like it. It was very atmospheric and I like her book. Guardian and a Thief by Mega Majumdar. I'm going to put at the top of Chido. This is a recent release. It was released in 2025. Actually, no, I'm going to put it higher. I think it deserves to be higher at the bottom here. This is a story set, I believe, in India. We have a family who is trying to escape to the United States, fleeing India because of climate change. It has like ravaged the city and basically there's no food to be found. The people at the top are hoarding, and at the same time we have this rural boy who travels to a larger city trying to carve a space for their family because their family has also been devastated by climate change. And it's a book that really makes you question who is good and who is bad. Fiend was not for me. I'm going to have to put it maybe here. This is by Awakatsu. She is a prolific horror author. I do want to try more books by her because I know she's beloved. This one didn't work for me. Somebody is Walking on Your Grave. Oh, this is another nonfiction. So I'm going to put it here. Someone is Walking on Your Grave. Actually, this can come down here. Somebody is Walking on Your Grave is a collection of stories, but they're nonfiction stories. We have Mariana Enriquez, who traveled to several cemeteries around the world, and she basically gives us the history of that cemetery and also a snippet of why she went there and what she discovered. It was really great. I learned a lot about different countries and their cemeteries and their cultural traditions. I really liked it. I basically read anything by Mariana Enriquez at this point. She's a horror author, but this is her one nonfiction that I have. White Horse by Erica T. Worth. This is the book by an indigenous Latina author. I know a lot of people don't like this book. It's sort of like a crime thriller. It's gritty. Even though the main character is unlikable, I really enjoyed my time reading it. I'm gonna put it here. The Bewitching by Silvia Moreno Garcia. She is one of my favorite authors. I really love this one. This is probably one of my... Okay, I'm gonna put it down here. This is probably one of my favorite books by her, maybe like top 2 or 3. Only thing that I don't like about some of her books is the taboo romances that she writes about. All the Boys Are in Blue is another nonfiction, so this is a memoir. I'm going to put it here in Orale. Wool by Hugh Howie. I love Silo, the TV series on Apple TV. It's one of my favorite shows right now. So we watched it, and I was like, I have to read the books. I have to know what happens next. I can't just wait like a year or 2 and not know how the story finishes. So I picked up Wool. It's just, compared to the show, it's so one-dimensional. Characters are one-dimensional. The story's one-dimensional. These are the bare bones, and the TV creators and producers added so much layer to the story. It's not a good book. It's just not a good book. I Was a Teenage Slasher was a book that took me months to read just because I wasn't in the mood. I'm a mood reader, so I have to be in the mood to read certain things. By the end of it, it was fantastic. This is a book that made me feel a lot of things. I was disgusted. I was grossed out. At some points I was scared, but what I didn't expect is that by the end I was in tears. The Dilemmas of Working Women is a collection of short stories about daily life in Japan as a woman. I think this was originally published in the 90s or 80s, but recently translated. It was good. I mean, I enjoyed it. I read it. It was good. nothing revolutionary. Cold Eternity by S.A. Barnes. S.A. Barnes is like a horror thriller sci-fi writer. I really like horror in space. I like horror sci-fi, and I feel like I haven't been able to read a lot from like with the mix of those two genres. So I keep coming to S.A. Barnes time and time again. She's an author whose work scratch that itch, but they're never excellent. This is another one that has a weird romance in it. I don't understand. All That We Seem or Seem is Ken Liu's like debut thriller. He usually writes fantasy. You know, I had a good time. They got very convoluted very fast. It's a crime thriller, but it also has sci-fi elements in it. Pretty sure it's going to be part of a series. That feels right. Weapons of Math Destruction by Kathy O'Neill. This is another nonfiction. I had a really fun time reading this one as well. I'm going to put it up here. Kathy O'Neill used to be like an accountant, or she used to work a private equity firm, no, for a hedge fund. She basically talks about how these algorithms exacerbate or keep the status quo and maintain inequality. It was really enlightening. I really like that one. I actually, you know, I'm going to bring this one up. Yeah, that feels right to me. Sunbirth by Ann Yu. This is Ann Yu's latest release. It is a literary fiction novel. I'm gonna put it in orale. It's very quiet, very slow moving, very character driven. It's about this town where the sun keeps losing light. At some point, people realize that the sun is essentially dimming, and people are just doing their best, going about their daily lives, not necessarily doing anything about it. And then one day there's reports of people who have a sun sprouting out of their head, and more of them start to appear. Mayra by Nikki Gonzalez. I really liked this one. This one was another one that's very slow moving, character driven. It's hypnotic and atmospheric. Dungeon Crawler Carl. I will admit I had a really good time reading it. It was really fun. I'm definitely going to continue with the series, but there were a couple of scenes in here that, yeah, they were off-putting. There was one scene in particular that was off-putting to me. It leaned into stereotypes, and I didn't like that, so it's going to stay here. Victim by Andrew Boriga. Is that his name? I can't really read it. I think it is. Yeah, Andrew Boriga. This one was really, really good. I'm going to keep it down here for now. How do I even talk about this book? It's been a while since I've read it, but it's essentially about this guy who uses his identity as a means to get ahead in life. It talks a lot about identity politics and about social media and about storytelling and what types of stories get popular or allowed to get popular or have marketing budget from people of color, and maybe what that says about our society. I thought it was really, really fun to read, and I think this would be a great book club pick. But I also think it's one of those books that if the wrong reader reads it, it could be misinterpreted. First Daughters. I really like this one. This one is a multi-generational tale. Okay, rapid fire. Ali Wong, Dear Girls. This is her memoir. I chuckled, I laughed at certain parts. Ultimately, I think it was not for me. Type of humor is not the type of humor that resonates with me, I guess, so I'm gonna put it here. The Great Cool Ranch Dorito in the Sky. This is a young adult book, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I don't even know what that means. I really enjoyed this book. I cried by the end. Another coming-of-age story, Libertad by Bessie Flores Saldivar. This is set in El Salvador, and it's about this young girl growing up queer in El Salvador. I really liked it. I'm going to put it here. The Butcher of Anderson's Station is a novella within The Expanse. I think it was good. The Iliac Crest by Cristina Rivera Garza. This is a book by a Mexican author. It's a little gothic. It's horror, it's literary. It's about this man who works for this hospital on an isolated coast, and two women show up at his doorstep claiming that they know his secret. He's also an unnamed narrator, and these women like create their own language, and they get comfortable in his house, and they slowly start to invade his space, and it's about him losing his agency little by little, but it's also about so many other like dichotomies. Where the Library Hides by Isabel Ibañez. And it takes place in Egypt, between Egypt and Argentina. There's magic, there's like a romance subplot. I had a good time reading it, so I'm going to put it here. These Memories Do Not Belong to Us by Yiming. This is a science fiction literary. It's set in a time where essentially China has won, and they have something called memory banks where people are able to record their memories and also share them. So it's about like collective consciousness. It's about what, like, whose memories are being passed down, regulation and privacy, about so many more other things. This was an excellent read. I don't see a lot of people talk about this, but it's so good. The Strength of the Few. This is book 2 to the Hierarchy series by James Islington. I know some people didn't like this book because there's a third POV that feels very different from the rest, but I was eating it up. White Hot. This is another one that just is going to go all the way up here. Probably, yeah, it's gonna go up there. It's so good. It's a letter. It's essentially a letter from a mother to her daughter. This mother abandons her daughter when years before, decades before, and she basically explains why she left. And it's about this woman just letting loose and doing whatever she wants unrestrained without anyone judging her. It's very fiery, it's very raw, it's very gritty. It was amazing. We Refuse. This is a forceful history of Black resistance. I think this is required reading for a lot of people. It was also told in a very like digestible way. Talks about different like revolutions that have happened. For example, like the Haitian Revolution, which I didn't learn much about growing up, but it talks about how there are different ways to refuse and how they're not always highlighted in history. I think this is an important read. I'm going to put it up here. Harmattan Season by Tochi Onyebuchi. Tochi Onyebuchi is one of my favorite authors. This is a crime noir novel with sci-fi / fantasy elements. I really enjoy the dialogue that Tochi Onyebuchi writes. Dialogue can be tricky, I think, for me. Sometimes dialogue in books feels not real, manufactured, but not with him. There was this character in there, and the conversations that he had with our main character were just the funniest things ever. It's not a funny book, it's very serious, but those moments of levity really tied it up. Like, it tied it all together for me. Here it is, What the River Knows. I did read it in 2025. I enjoyed this one more than the second one. Building a Nest from the Bones of My People. This is a poetry collection. I don't read a lot of poetry. I can't really tell you what it was about. I don't know how to talk about poetry, but I really liked it. Automatic Noodle. It was good. I'm going to put it here. It's about these robots who are trying to open a noodle shop, but it also talks about climate change and about like robots' rights and how someone is review bombing them because they don't like that robots are making their own noodle shop. The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year by Ali Carter I read in an attempt to read something cozy. I tend to gravitate to very dark books in general. That's just who I am. And I just wanted something different during the holidays. And you know what? I had a good time. Was it like the best book that I've ever read? No. Was it fun? Yeah. And this is completely like a cover pick, by the way. This feels right. Yeah, next to Finlay Donovan. These are in the same vein for me. These are my cozy picks. The King Must Die by Kemi Ashing-Giwa. But there was just too much going on in it, and the really hard moments didn't feel earned because it felt very rushed. So I'm going to have to keep it down here. Archive of Unknown Universes by Ruben Reyes Jr. This is this author's debut novel. It is a sci-fi literary book. I read his short story collection, which I love. It's one of my favorite things that I've read. This one I enjoyed a little bit less, so I think I'm gonna have to put it here. Oral, it's still really good. Don't get me wrong, it's still really good. Red City by Marie Lu. There's pining in this. I loved it. It's gonna go up there. It's so good. Our Shadows Have Claws. This is an anthology collection of short horror stories by Latin American authors. It had quite the variety. Not all of them worked for me, but I thought it was a really good one to read. I'm going to put it here. Then we have Caliban's War. This is book 2 to The Expanse. This is by far my favorite book in the series so far. So up you go. Uppy. Here we go. That feels good. And then Forget Me Not. Stacey Willingham is one of my favorite thriller authors. I basically read every single book she comes out with. I just really like the way that she tackles things. It doesn't feel like a popcorn thriller. There's more substance in them. This one was you know, it's not her best personally, so I'm gonna put it here. It was still good. I had a good time. Oh my gosh. We're finally done. I can't believe I got through this. This is my first year ranking video. I think I need to work on this top one. Yeah, this feels good to me. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.